Hey there, Aubrey. What's going on today?
You might notice my background's a little different. I'm in Idaho at my parents'. I come here every summer because they have beautiful, cool weather all summer long.
Oh my gosh, escaping the heat. You look like you're in a little cabin in the
Yes.
woods. Is
Yeah,
that
it's my
right?
dad's art studio behind their home, and it is a log cabin. It's really fun and rustic.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And, getting out into nature helps us kind of just sort of respect the world, respect the natural world, right? I mean, don't you think? Don't you feel that way when
Yes,
you're up in Idaho?
absolutely. Right. I was
Yeah.
just telling Lindsay, I definitely gained a lot of respect for the natural world. We went on a hike in Escalante and didn't take enough water. Just a PSA, guys, take plenty of water on every hike, or we start to
Yes.
really respect how brutal the sun can be, right?
Yes, completely. Oh my gosh, brutal. I love that part of Utah. I love that part of the country. I think that actually is my favorite part of our entire country, but it is no joke, right? When you go out there, it's Mother Nature, raw Mother Nature.
It's so true. Ooh, I love that phrase you threw in to say something is no joke. I'm going to pull that
Yes.
for the app for sure.
Yes.
You guys, that we say that all the time to say that something is serious, to say it is no joke.
It's no joke. So speaking of that, we're talking about respect today, right? But in a slightly different way. What are we getting into today? Did this come out of a class you had with a student?
Yes, right. You guys are familiar with the verb respect, but I had a student who made the mistake of saying, I'm impressed by how those children show respects to their parents, and just added an S to respect. And then when I corrected her, we were talking about how she had heard show respects or pay respects. And I said, oh, it's interesting. This is actually very high level. Pay respects means something else. So we're going to talk about these phrases. They're so useful in English.
Ooh, I love it. Today's episode is all about respect, such an important thing in our world today. But first, what do we want to let our listeners know that they should do right now? The first
Yeah.
action of the day.
Right, guys, be sure to hit follow right here on the All Ears English podcast. If you just willy nilly listen to an episode here and there or have stumbled upon us, go ahead and hit that follow button. We publish 4 episodes every week. You don't want to miss a single one.
Yeah, willy-nilly, that's another great one.
Yes, I say that a lot,
Lo
willy nilly,
Lots of great vocabulary
like
that's going to be
randomly.
going in the iOS, Android
Mhm.
app from today's episode. I love how on this show, just that natural vocabulary just comes up for our listeners. So guys, write these down, right? Write them down. So where do we
Yes.
start today, Aubrey, with respect? What is the first phrase we want our listeners to know about?
Yeah, the first one we'll talk about is that pay respects. So, whenever you have the verb pay collocated with respect, this is a a different meaning than showing respect. And this, what does that mean, Lindsay, to pay your respects or to
So
pay respects?
yeah, this is usually related to death, right? So it's when
Hmm.
someone, generally, I think, is that right? Would you agree with that,
Yeah.
Aubrey? Usually, when someone
Yes.
dies, right? So usually, some kind of an event. Actually, coincidentally, we're having a celebration of life in California this weekend for my aunt. So we're putting on a whole
Mm.
event where everyone in the community is coming. I made a slideshow. I'm doing a speech. We're doing a whole
Oh.
thing where people can come by and pay their respects to my aunt.
Yes, and
So
what that means is, it's a polite visit, but like you said, it's quite formal to use it this way. And now we pretty much only use it with funerals when someone has
yeah,
passed away. In
yeah.
the past, you guys will hear in older movies, someone will say like, "I'm going to stop by and pay my respects to like an elderly
Ah,
person." You'll hear it
okay.
used that way, but it's
Hmm,
evolving. We really don't use it
interesting.
that way anymore. Maybe like a very elderly grandparent might say that, but
Yeah,
with our newest generation, with Gen Z, we
yeah.
don't use it that way. It really just means going to a funeral or to a celebration of life to pay your respect to this person that
Mm.
passed away.
Yeah, we could do a whole other episode on how funeral lingo is changing, right? A lot of times you don't even hear the word funeral anymore. You hear celebration of life,
Yeah.
trying to spin it in a more positive way, right? Because people have lived long lives, hopefully, and we want to respect and kind of celebrate what they've done in their lives and
Right. We
what
want
they've
it to be
had.
more of a
Yeah,
happy occasion,
right.
remembering them with positivity and love. We don't want it
Yes.
to be so somber as it has been in the past, at least in the
Yes.
US. But this is
Yes.
very different, I think, culturally. So this would be an
Yes, good
interesting
point.
thing for you guys to come and comment on the YouTube. What are funerals like? Is it more like a celebration of life in your culture?
Let us know on YouTube, guys. All right, Aubrey, what's the second one that we need to know?
Yeah. So the second one is show respect, which we use more often because it's not just associated with funerals. And
Mhm.
the difference is that respect is singular here. So it's always pay respects, plural, and then show respect, which just means to treat someone with respect.
And is this kind of the mistake that you saw our student, make here around the
Right?
plural, right? Just to
Combining
read.
both exactly
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
saying show respects.
Okay. Okay.
And, of course, the verb respect will sometimes have an S if you say he respects his parents.
Right,
But
as
if
a
ever you
verb.
use the verb show with respect, it will always be singular.
Interesting. This is tricky. So our listeners are going to
Hmm.
want to listen a couple of times today. Go back and rewind, guys. Write down these examples. We have two examples for our listeners under this one. What's the first one?
Yeah, so please show respect to the speaker by turning off all cell phones. You might
Yes.
hear this before a TED Talk or before an important presentation or speech.
Right. Yeah. And or even a yoga class. I went to yoga last
Yeah,
night and I'm always like, did I turn my phone off? And by that time it's in the cubbies and you can't get up because it'd be very awkward. And then you're like,
right.
oh, please don't ring.
I know I just went to a
So,
film last night and someone's phone rang so loud in the middle of a
so-
very poignant scene. There's a film called it's the one about sex trafficking that's so powerful. It's in the
oh,
theaters right now.
yes. Yes. I heard
Um
about that. Mm-hmm.
yes, The Sound of
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yes.
I highly recommend it. It's very powerful, but definitely leaves you with a
Yeah.
message of hope more
Yeah.
than
Good.
just
Okay.
like horror, right?
Mm.
So, but anyway, yeah, this phone just went off so loud.
And
It's
the worst is
tricky.
when they have awful rings, like
Yes,
ridiculous tunes and
right. People
anyways.
trying to find their phone to turn it off, but
Yeah.
so
All right,
funny.
what's the second example here,
So
Aubrey?
you might say, do children show respect today like they did in the past? This is actually a popular IELTS question, an IELTS speaking
Oh,
question.
really?
Hmm.
Interesting. I didn't
That
know
we've
that.
heard a lot of students that got that on test day. You'll see it online when you search
Huh.
speaking part three questions, right? Often comparing the past to the present and often comparing if the respect is shown like it was in the past.
Very interesting, guys. Go over and check out our other podcast where Aubrey and Jessica are twice a week, IELTS Energy Podcast, if you're getting ready for the IELTS exam.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All
what's
right. And we
next?
have a third phrase. There are a couple of other phrases we use a lot just with the word respect. One
Mhm.
is an expression, with all due respect. This is pretty formal. It's
Mhm.
used to sort of soften or mitigate
Yeah.
disagreement or criticism. If you're going
Yes.
to criticize or disagree with someone, we'll often say this before we disagree, right?
Aubrey, do you say this yourself? Is this in your kind of vernacular, what you personally say? For me, it's not as much, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I think I would say it, and it wouldn't be strange to me to hear someone else say it.
right,
But honestly, usually speak quite informally. So if I
right,
were to use this, it
right.
would be at work or I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe in a job interview. If
right,
someone, I don't know, maybe asked me an inappropriate question, I might say, with all
right.
due respect, I would like to refrain from answering that question. Something like that.
Yeah,
If you're in a quite a formal situation, I might say this.
yeah, same here. It's not something that I would say socially quite as much. It feels quite formal, but let's give our listeners a couple of examples here. Are you ready for the first one?
Yeah, so you might
Okay.
just say, with all due respect, I disagree with your opinion. And I
Mhm.
do hear this. If people are arguing and they see things very differently, this is a respectful way to say, I'm going to disagree and I'd like to share my side now. And it does, it feels respectful, like you are listening,
Yes.
but it's just a kind way to say, I very much disagree.
Yeah, that's true. Or with all due respect, I think what you're saying is insensitive. So again, along the same tone of maybe
Hmm.
you're talking about politics and you want to open it up in a way that's hopefully going to make the person I think people just want to feel respected. That's what it comes down to,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
No
And I
matter
will
what
keep
they
in
say.
mind,
Mhm.
I feel like we almost always use this at the beginning of our thought or of our sentence because I went to come up with example sentences and flip it, say, oh, I think what you're saying is insensitive with all due respect. And I'm like, no,
Okay.
that feels strange. We just really, really don't do that. So if you're going to do
Yeah.
it, just at the beginning of your phrase, you'll say it and then share that you
Yeah.
disagree.
I think you can get away with tacking it on the end, right? Maybe it's not as common, but I think it would be I personally would say it's better than if you realize you forgot to say something to
To
respect the
say it in
person,
hindsight, yeah,
yeah, it's better to tack it on to the end than
sure.
to not say anything. I would argue that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense,
Yeah.
and it could be a regional thing too. There could be places
Mm.
in the United States or in other English-speaking countries where it's more common to have it out of order, so
Oh,
lots
yeah.
of times whenever we share something like that, like, "This sounds wrong to me," it often could be more what we're used to hearing.
Yeah, completely, completely. All right. So actually, Aubrey, let's go ahead and do our fourth example, and then we'll break for a quick message, okay? In just a
Okay,
second. So
perfect.
what's the fourth one?
So this one is with respect to, which means the
Mhm.
same as regarding, right? It's used to say what something relates to. So let's give a
Okay.
couple examples for this one.
All right. So the groups were similar with respect to age and performance. I love this one. It sounds very smart, I
It
think.
does, right? It does sound very smart. It would be great to add to a business presentation or if you're
Yes.
speaking in a meeting. But will hear it just in everyday speech as well.
Mhm.
Here's another example, definitely that would be used in business English. With respect to our sales numbers, market increases have been seen over the last quarter.
Yeah, so you're saying regarding this thing, right, Aubrey? That would be
Exactly.
another way to say that? Yeah?
Yeah, or in relation to this thing, or in regards to or regarding.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Do
right?
you use this one casually, just kinda going back, let's say at a barbecue with friends? Would you use this? Would this make sense? Or would you reserve this just for business and more formal things?
Yeah, I would say more formal, right? I
Mhm.
definitely not those very informal situations, barbecues with friends. I can't really imagine a situation where this wouldn't feel like someone's being a little too
A little
formal, right?
Right, I agree with that actually. Most of the time it's gonna come out when you're trying to be specific, sound smart, and sound kind of more learned, I
Professional.
guess, more
Mhm.
professional. Yeah,
Polished,
completely. Yes,
absolutely.
polished. I love it. So, Aubrey, let's take a quick minute here and remind our listeners about our sponsor, Rosetta Stone. So, Aubrey, I have a quick update for you. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
So I logged into the Rosetta Stone app on my laptop to get started with my Portuguese. Remember last month I told you that I was going to be working on it?
Yes.
Yeah. And the first thing I noticed was that it did feel immersive.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah? How so?
Well, instead of just drilling, memorizing, which is what you would expect, the program actually asked me to match native speaker audio to images. So I was doing a lot of
Oh.
matching work. Hmm.
I love that. That would make it like an addictive video game. Are there,
Yeah.
like, sound effects when you get it right?
But yeah, I love the sound it makes when I get it right, right? A little reward bell, right? We're not above that. That motivating sound. We love that. We want to hear that. We want that reward. So it's not like I'm sitting here and listening to a lecture about how to pronounce the words. Instead, I'm just trying it and I'm getting feedback. I love that style.
Yes, I love that. So, guys, the idea behind the Rosetta Stone method is that we can pick up our target language in a very natural way, kind of like a child acquires language. And 10 minutes a day is really all you need.
Yeah, that's because Rosetta Stone was designed by professionals. So these people know how to maximize your time. So if you're overwhelmed, if you think it's going to take too long, Rosetta Stone will actually guide you through that process, guys.
For sure. This is the way to invest those 10 minutes a day wisely. And we all love a good lifetime membership.
We do.
That's the best. And there are 25 languages on the Rosetta Stone program. So you can keep coming back and learning more and more.
So, guys, listen up. For a limited time, all Ears English listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 40% off. That's $179 for unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your lifetime. So you can redeem your 40% off at rosettastone.com/AEE, and you can use the code AEE today.
Yes, the program is actually worth $299, but with our code, you can get it for life for just $179. So we've arranged this deal for you guys, the All Ears English audience.
All right, so guys, go and grab that deal. And when you're back, we're going to go ahead and go into a quick role play to finish up today's episode. Aubrey, are you ready? Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it. In this role play, you and I are chatting at a luncheon after a funeral.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
I'm so glad that so many people came to pay their respects.
Yeah, she was clearly well loved and respected.
I'm glad my children showed respect during the funeral. They can be quite rambunctious.
With all due respect, I did see them running around screaming in the church foyer.
Oh no, that doesn't surprise me. With respect to their behavior, it's a bit crazy lately.
That's funny. It's funny here because you said, "I'm glad my children were good," but I'm saying, actually, they
Uh-huh.
weren't, right?
Oh,
Just
this
got
exact thing has happened to me before. In fact, I was just at a family reunion and something very similar happened where one person was like,
really?
"Your kids are so well behaved." And then someone else
Oh,
was like, "Actually," just shared
that's
like
mortifying.
they had made this huge mess with popcorn in a room. I didn't know. They're like,
That's
"Actually, you might want to
hilarious.
go clean up after
That's
them."
I bet a lot of our listeners who are parents are gonna really identify with you, Aubrey, here in this situation. So
For
good.
sure.
All right, so real quick before we finish up today and give our listeners our takeaway, where did we use our expressions today?
Yeah. So I first said, I'm glad so many people came to pay their respects. And that is the one you have to have the plural there, pay their respects. And it means
Mhm.
to come when someone has passed away, to visit, to celebrate their life, to show support to the family.
Yes, and then I said she was clearly well loved and respected, right? So that wasn't one of the phrases we taught, but it is, a way to refer to someone as being respected, right, Aubrey?
Yes, absolutely. Good point to have that past participle, the verb
Mhm.
respected. She was
Yeah.
respected. And then I said, I'm glad my children showed respect during the funeral, which this is likely you're more familiar with this, just means to be respectful, to show
Right.
respect.
Yes, and I say, "Well, actually," right? Or I didn't say actually, I said, "With all due respect, I did see them running and screaming in the church foyer," and that could be a good bonus word for today too, foyer.
Yes,
Foyer.
that's interesting. You say foyer, I say foyer. It's
Oh,
spelled
interesting.
Foyer, you guys. And this is one of those things where,
Well, we'll
depending on
have
your
to do an
regional dialect, it's pronounced differently. It's like pecan and pecan. Yeah,
That's so funny. Let's do an update on that, Aubrey. Let's do an update
for
episode
sure.
on that one. We'll come back to it, guys. Just make sure you hit follow on All Ears English. So, and then the last one you said was?
I said, with respect to their behavior, it's been a bit crazy lately. And both of these at the end, I wanted to use them in a role play, but it does feel quite formal. Like we're not
Mm,
best friends chatting here. Like it might
right.
be, you might be my grandmother, I think, in this
Yes.
conversation, because
Yes.
it does feel quite formal. It wouldn't be to my sister or to a really good friend my age. If it
Right.
were, I wouldn't use these phrases with all due respect and
Yeah.
with
It's
respect to their behavior, right? I'm clearly, like you said, trying to be a little more polished, a little more formal.
yeah, it's a good point, Aubrey. We always have to know the context. Who are we talking to? Who are we
Hmm.
around, right? Where should we leave our listeners? First of all, go listen to Aretha Franklin, the famous song, right?
Yeah.
About
And there's a
respect.
film that's not very long ago, 2021. There was a film called Respect. It was like a biopic about Aretha
Okay.
Franklin. I've been dying to see
Awesome.
it.
Yeah, she's classic. Famous singer, very well loved. So where should we leave our listeners then? What's the final point that we want to remember?
Yes, guys, this word respect can be confusing. We used it in so many different ways and so many different expressions. So just avoid that common mistake of saying show respects. That needs
Mhm.
to be singular, show respect, and then
Yeah.
pay respects singular. So it's such a tiny detail, but a
Yeah.
really easy thing to polish your grammar a little bit by keeping track of that.
And I think the key point here too, also around connection, because connection, not perfection, is our belief. People want to feel respected, so try to bring the
Absolutely.
respect in any way you can. Add, with all due respect, add it in there so people feel respected. Because no dialogue, no connection can ever happen if one person isn't feeling respected. Right?
It's such a good point, right? That
Yes.
connection really goes hand in hand with respect. I agree so
Hmm.
much. Yep.
Yeah, totally. So, guys, if you want to grab that awesome deal from Rosetta Stone, go to ROSETTASTONE.com/AEE. And your code there is AEE, and you can get the lifetime deal. So good, Aubrey. Thanks for hanging out with me
Yes.
today on the microphone.
Yes, awesome. I'll see you next time.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.